Blessed are the poor in spirit. More than 2,000 years ago, a man named Jesus walked the roads and villages of Judea and Galilee. He held no political office, commanded no army, accumulated no great wealth, and left behind no writings of his own that we know of. Yet few people in human history have had a greater influence. His words and actions were remembered, shared, and recorded by his followers. He spoke about faith, forgiveness, compassion, fear, worry, judgment, love, and our relationship with man's Creator. We live in a world that encourages us to depend upon our own knowledge, our own opinions, and that of the world's views. Yet what if there is wisdom greater than our own? What if strength sometimes begins by admitting that we don't have every answer? Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus sat before ordinary people and began teaching them about a different way to live. Jesus spoke at what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. He began with these words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Matthew 5:3. His first message begins with humility. To be poor in spirit does not mean being powerless or without value. It is recognizing that our human understanding has limits. We cannot know everything. We cannot control everything. Jesus continually pointed people beyond themselves and toward God. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. Matthew chapter 7:7. Jesus tells us to seek. Seeking requires us to accept that there is still something we do not know. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Matthew 6:34. Jesus understood how easily we become consumed by trying to control what hasn't even happened yet. His answer was not simply to think harder or worry more. It was to trust beyond ourselves. Jesus also demonstrated humility through his actions. He sat with people others rejected. He showed compassion toward the suffering. He forgave. He served. And he taught his followers that greatness was not found in placing themselves above everyone else. There is something here, even for the person who is still questioning faith. We can begin simply by reflecting on his words. What if I don't understand everything? What if my own perspective is incomplete? What if there is something greater than my fears, my circumstances, and even my own understanding? Faith can begin with a willingness to seek. For the Graceful Warrior, this teaching becomes something we can practice every day. When we are certain that we are right, we can still listen. When anger tells us to react, we can pause. When we don't know what to do, we can ask for guidance. When life becomes uncertain, we can remember that we were never promised control over everything. And when pride tells us that we must have all the answers, we can return to the first words Jesus gave the crowd. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Perhaps being poor in spirit begins with one simple realization. There is more to understand than what I can see from where I stand. Today, reflect on the words of Jesus. You don't have to understand everything at once. Listen, seek. With all your heart, ask. And remain open to wisdom beyond your own understanding. A graceful warrior is strong enough to remain humble, wise enough to remain teachable, and courageous enough to seek something greater than themselves. Rise with strength, live with grace, and walk the Graceful Warrior way. Subscribe, like and share to the Graceful Warriors.